Next week is just special, my mom said gently. You being there would ruin that. My dad added, You've changed, Claire. You don't fit anymore. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded once and walked out. That night, I logged into the booking portal. By morning, every reservation they made with my money no longer existed. The Italy dream trip collapsed before their bags ever left the hallway. It wasn't always like this. There was a time I believed I was part of something maybe not cherished, but included. A daughter, a sister, a piece of the puzzle, even if that piece was worn around the edges. I used to tell myself that family didn't always show love the same way, that maybe all the one-sided birthday planning, the endless errands, the way I always paid for dinner without anyone reaching for their wallet, that was just my role. Quiet support, reliable Claire, the one who had it together. And I did. I worked hard, I provided. Not just for my kids, Emma and Nolan, but for the whole family. When Rachel's husband lost his job, I slipped cash into an envelope under the guise of a forgotten gift. When Dad's truck broke down, I co-signed the loan. When Mom wanted to renovate the kitchen for her 60th birthday, I covered the granite. No one ever asked directly. They didn't have to. They knew I'd say yes, and I always did. 6 months ago, we were at our usual Sunday dinner. Mom's baked rigatoni, bubbling on the table, the air thick with parmesan and expectation. Rachel was juggling her toddlers. Mark was buried in his phone. I was trying to keep Nolan from stabbing a meatball with his straw while Emma folded napkins into cranes. That's when Mom clinked her wine glass with a spoon and said, voice dreamy and wistful, I've always wanted to take the family to Europe. You know, before the kids get too big and everything changes. She glanced around the table like she was offering magic. Just imagine it, Florence the Amalfi Coast, real gelato. Rachel clapped like a child, and even Dad's eyes lit up a little. Then came the pitch. Rachel and Mark are a bit tight on money right now, she said almost casually. But you, honey, with that new consulting contract, you could make this happen. She made it sound like a gift I could give, not something she was taking. It would mean everything to us. I didn't hesitate. I should have, but I didn't. I nodded. Yeah, let's do it. And just like that, the trip began to take shape. I was looped into early planning vague stuff at first. General dates, rough cities. Nothing official, nothing detailed. Then slowly the updates stopped coming. I assumed they were busy, that I'd be looped back in, that eventually someone would say, Hey Claire, here's the finalized itinerary. What do you think I imagined us wandering cobblestone streets? Emma's hand in mine, Nolan running ahead. I pictured messy gelato stains, sunburned shoulders, wine in the piazza while the kids giggled nearby. I imagined Emma's drawings of the Trevi Fountain, Nolan learning to say ciao with an accent so thick it made us laugh until we cried. But then, nothing. For weeks, no updates, no questions about dietary needs, no double-checking passport info. I told myself it was just delayed communication. Maybe Rachel was planning a surprise. I told myself a lot of things. Until that afternoon in my sunroom, when the truth arrived via a simple, careless mistake. Rachel must have forwarded the wrong email. It landed in my inbox while Emma painted beside me, her fingers smudged with yellow and coral sunlight, catching in her curls. Nolan was napping under a pile of couch blankets. I was scrolling lazily content, sipping lukewarm tea, until I saw it. Subject line final itinerary, Italy trip. I opened it without thinking, curious, and then I stopped breathing. There it was, every detail, every booking, every name, Mom, Dad, Rachel, Mark, their 2 kids, no Claire, no Emma, no Nolan. It was like looking at a family portrait and realizing you'd been edited out. Not even a placeholder, not even a TBD, just 6 names, 6 seats, 6 lives moving forward without me. Florence, Rome, Amalfi, a 5-star hotel with a rooftop pool, private pasta-making class, vineyard dinner in Tuscany, personal driver, reserved gondola ride in Venice. It was stunning. It was curated. It was paid for with my money. I scrolled through the attachments, receipts, confirmations, dinner reservations, all under my name, my billing address, my credit card. The last time I felt that cold, I was 19, standing in the rain outside my parents' house after they'd locked the door during an argument. That same weight in my chest, that same disbelief, like surely there had been a mistake. But this time, there was no thunderstorm, just the quiet hum of the baby monitor, the sound of Emma humming while she dabbed blue paint into the ocean she'd created on canvas, the smell of lavender from the candle burning on the shelf. It was a perfect afternoon, until it wasn't. I reread the email thinking maybe there was a second wave. Maybe this was just the first group. Maybe I'd find a second attachment labeled Group 2, Claire and kids. But there wasn't. There never was. There was no invite, no oversight, just absence. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I sat very, very still. And the quiet around me became loud, so loud it almost shook the windows. That was the moment something inside me started to shift, not with fire, but with ice. And I knew then I wasn't family. I was just the funding. I didn't speak to anyone that night. Not Rachel, not Mom, not Mark. I didn't even tell Emma. I just closed my laptop slowly like I was afraid it would bite me and sat in the silence while the sun dipped below the backyard fence and the sky turned lavender. Nolan stirred in his sleep. Emma called out from her room, "Can I use more glitter?" And I said yes, even though I knew it would be all over the floor. Let it sparkle, I thought. Let it shimmer while the truth settles. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart thudding in a rhythm I didn't recognize, the kind of rhythm that usually comes right before something breaks. At 2:17 a.m., I got out of bed, padded barefoot into the kitchen, and sat with a mug of chamomile tea I never drank. The itinerary stayed open on my phone. I kept rereading it. Like maybe one line would shift, like maybe the universe would whisper, "Just kidding, here's your spot." It didn't. There was no error, just precision. I looked at the total trip value, $22 and $487.44, all processed through my accounts, every flight, every hotel, every guided tour. I remembered the day I sent that money, wiring it on my lunch break while waiting for my coffee order. Rachel had texted me a heart emoji afterward. Just that. No words, just the shape. I stared at my bank statement for a long time. Then I looked around the house, at Emma's rainbow magnet art on the fridge, at Nolan's dinosaur figurines scattered on the rug, at the worn spot on the armchair where I sat each night reading with them. And something inside me whispered, they don't see us, not as people, not as family, just as a resource. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel anger, just this slow, cold awareness crawling up my spine. This understanding that I was not merely forgotten, I was erased, deliberately. And that's when the plan began to form. It didn't come all at once. It was like a fog, lifting bit by bit, a quiet clarity. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't demand a place at their table. I would flip the table. I waited for Sunday, our sacred tradition, family dinner. Always the same, Mom's rigatoni Rachel's overtold PTA stories, Mark scrolling silently Dad, pretending to care about golf stats no one asked for. They didn't know I knew. That was the power. I dressed as if nothing had changed, casual, warm, approachable. Emma wore her sunflower dress. Nolan brought his toy truck. I made brownies from scratch. That was always my thing, bringing dessert. Sweetness on the surface. Mom greeted us at the door like usual, kissed Emma's cheek, complimented my scarf, pretended the trip wasn't days away. The betrayal danced in the air like invisible smoke. Dinner unfolded like a performance, but I knew the script now. I waited until halfway through the meal, waited for Rachel's story about how exhausting being the glue of the family was, waited for Dad's sigh about how expensive everything is these days. And then while pouring myself another glass of wine, I said, casually like I was talking about the weather, Italy's beautiful this time of year, especially Florence. The silence was immediate. Mom's hand paused mid-pass of the breadbasket. Rachel blinked too slowly. Mark suddenly found his water fascinating. Dad leaned back, arms folded, eyes squinting. Then Mom recovered first, always the fastest liar. "Next week is just special," she said, voice gentle. "We didn't think it would be right to bring extra stress. Extra stress. That's what I'd become." Rachel wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark chewed slower. Dad spoke next, his tone measured as if delivering a verdict. "You've changed, Claire. It's like you don't get us anymore. No one asked how I knew. No one apologized. They'd rehearsed this scene too well. The omission wasn't a mistake. It was a statement. I didn't argue, didn't plead. I looked down at my plate, took a bite, then lifted my fork and gently tapped it against my wine glass. Clink. Just once. A sound so light, so polite, they missed the thunder beneath it. I smiled, duly noted. We finished dinner like it was any other Sunday. I helped clear the table. Emma hugged Grandma. Nolan giggled at the dog, and when we left, I said, "Thank you for dinner," like I meant it. But in the quiet of the car ride home with Emma humming and Nolan sleepy against the window, I made myself a promise. They would never erase us again. That night, while the kids slept and the house exhaled, I sat down at my desk. I lit a candle. I pulled up the itinerary. I opened my bank statements, and I made a different kind of list. Not of dreams, but of cancellations. The strange thing about betrayal is how quiet it can be. No slammed doors, no screaming matches, just a shift, a stillness, like the air thickens and you start to see the world in sharper contrast. That night, I didn't rage. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even text a single question mark. I didn't want their explanations, their scrambling lies, their sudden concern. I wanted something cleaner. So I brewed a cup of mint tea, Emma's favorite, and turned on the playlist she made for our girls' mornings. Soft, acoustic, gentle harmonies. Background noise for a storm they'd never hear coming. My laptop opened with a soft click. The screen glowed like a lighthouse in the dark. I pulled up the email Rachel had forwarded, the one with the words, "Final itinerary," stamped across the subject line like a dare. Every detail was there. Every receipt, every booking, every reservation, and every single one in my name. They hadn't even tried to hide it. Their arrogance was their weakness. I started with the flights. First class direct from LAX to Rome. 3 adults, 2 children. Non-refundable, they thought, but they were wrong. I clicked cancel. Refund initiated. Reimbursement pending. The account mine. Then the hotels. 2 suites in Florence for 3 nights each. Spa access. Rooftop dining. Champagne on arrival. I logged into the booking portal. The reservation sat there smug waiting. Canceled. I didn't rush. I took my time. The Amalfi Coast boat cruise gone. The high-speed rail passes between cities flagged and refunded. The private vineyard tour in Tuscany, complete with gourmet picnic and vintage wine pairing, reversed. Every tour guide, every dinner, every driver they'd lined up, canceled, disabled, locked. And with each click, I felt lighter. It wasn't vengeance. It was math. Just arithmetic. They used my card, my name, my generosity, and I was just correcting the equation. Next came the digital cleanup. I logged into the travel portal I had set up when Mom first pitched the trip. It was supposed to keep everything organized. I had used my email, my billing info, my password. Classic Claire, always the organizer, always the one who makes things happen. I changed the password, removed their email access, locked the digital passes, deactivated the QR codes, reported all unauthorized names to the car service company. By 2:48 a.m., the entire trip had been unraveled like a silk ribbon pulled from a tight braid. The silence in my kitchen was absolute except for the faint click of the dishwasher finishing its final cycle, a fitting ending. I went to bed and slept like a stone. The next morning, Nolan asked for pancakes. Emma wanted to make waffles instead. We compromised with toast shaped like dinosaurs. It was peaceful, intentional, ours. At exactly 8:03 a.m., My phone buzzed. Mark unblocked the account now. I stared at the screen, then smiled. Calm, clinical. Replied, sorry. I guess I'm just too different now. Then came the flood. Mom, Claire, what did you do? Rachel. Photo of her daughter crying. You're being cruel. The kids were excited. They don't deserve this. Neither did mine. I didn't reply. I made coffee, braided Emma's hair, helped Nolan find his lost sock. At 6:10 p.m., I knew they were supposed to be boarding. At 6:12, Rachel texted, "Why are we being denied boarding?" 6:15, Mark. "Did you cancel the flights?" Then the phone calls started. I watched the screen flash with names, ignored them all. I pictured them standing at the gate holding their designer luggage dressed in coordinated travel outfits. Mom barking at an agent. Dad pulling out a credit card that couldn't resurrect the vanished reservations. Rachel whisper yelling Mark, pretending to stay calm. Meanwhile, I was in the kitchen with flour on my hands, Emma giggling as she rolled out pizza dough, Nolan sneaking cheese from the bowl, music playing. Laughter echoing. The house smelled like garlic and peace. They had erased me, so I erased the trip. By Sunday, they were home, less than 48 hours after they were supposed to be sipping espresso in Florence. No Facebook photos, no airport selfies, no Italy Dreams hashtags. Just silence. At 3:47 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Mom. No makeup, hair tied back still in travel leggings. She wore the "I'm not here to fight" face she always used when she was here to fight. She didn't ask to come in, she just said, "All right, you made your point." Then launched into a monologue about family, how these stunts create wedges, how ruining a trip doesn't solve anything, and then almost comically, "Anyway, I wanted to ask about the backyard. The contractor's still on for next month. We don't want to lose the date. Your dad said you might help with the deposit." I stared at her, stunned. She was still playing the same game, still assuming I'd crawl back into my role, the reliable one, the bank. I smiled. "Let me check my accounts. I'll let you know by the end of the week." She nodded, satisfied. She thought the door had reopened. What she didn't realize, that door wasn't locked. It was gone. The backyard deposit became their new obsession. Mom texted again on Tuesday. "Just checking in. Have you had a chance to look at your accounts?" No apology, no acknowledgement of the Italy trip, just a gentle nudge wrapped in entitlement. I waited 2 days, then replied, "Still checking a few things. Will confirm soon." That word soon became my armor. By Friday, Rachel messaged, "Hey, Mom said you might help with the contractor. Let us know. We don't want to lose the date." No warmth, no punctuation beyond periods. It read like a passive-aggressive business memo. That's when I noticed it, how quickly their tone flipped when I withheld something they wanted. For years, I thought my worth came from giving. Turns out, it came from withholding. Saturday passed, then Sunday. No reply. By Monday, Dad called. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail. His message was almost sweet in its performance. "Hey, Claire. No pressure, we just need to know what's happening so we can plan accordingly. So we can plan." That's all I ever was to them, a part of their plan. I wrote back, "Totally get it. Should have an answer soon." And just like that, the roles reversed. The people who used to make me beg for scraps of emotional attention now waited anxiously for a bank transfer. The ones who erased my children from a dream vacation were now dangling on the hook I used to hang from. Thanksgiving crept closer. Usually I'd get the annual text from Mom who's bringing what, or from Rachel, "Please RSVP this year, Claire. It helps with seating." This time nothing. No invite, no mention, not even a guilt-laced emoji. And for the first time in my life, I didn't ask. I didn't offer to bring dessert. I didn't double-check my calendar or stock up on wine for Mom's table. I waited in silence. The day before Thanksgiving, I saw Rachel's Instagram post. A long farmhouse table set for 10, pumpkin place cards, napkins folded into swans, her caption, "Grateful for the real ones. Every chair filled, every name handwritten. None for me, none for Emma, none for Nolan." There was no confusion now, No, we thought you were busy. No, we weren't sure what your plans were. This wasn't about forgetting. This was erasure. Intentional. Complete. So we made our own dinner. Emma voted for waffles. Nolan wanted mac and cheese. So that's what we made messy, buttery perfect. We ate on the couch, watched old Christmas movies, and laughed so hard I forgot what day it was. Until a few days later, in the grocery store parking lot when I saw Erica Mom's friend from church. She gave me the sheepish smile the kind people wear when they know something you're not supposed to. Then she said, "They didn't invite you, did they?" I shook my head. "First time," I said. She nodded. "Rachel told your grandma it was just simpler this way. Less tension. Less tension." As if my children and I were static on the family radio, background noise they'd decided to switch off. Christmas came. I didn't check my phone, didn't wait for a text, but a neighbor sent me a screenshot of Rachel's holiday post. The whole family in matching pajamas. 5 stockings above the fireplace. 5, not 6, not 7, just 5. No Claire, no Emma, no Nolan, not even a stray stocking tucked in the corner out of politeness. And this time, I didn't cry. I didn't even feel hollow. I felt clear. They weren't just excluding me anymore. They were deleting me. That night, I whispered out loud, "Let's see how it feels when the silence goes both ways." Mid-January, a plain envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name in my mother's shaky handwriting. Inside a folded letter and a check, 2 paragraphs. That's all she wrote. Paragraph 1. We're reaching out to repair what's left. Paragraph 2. Enclosed is your share of the Italy trip since you didn't attend. The check was for $3,600. I laughed. Not because of the number, though yes, it was insulting, but because they still believed this was about money. As if refunding the cost could erase the sting of being told your presence would ruin it. I didn't cash the check. I pinned it to the fridge with a glittery magnet Emma had made in kindergarten, right next to Nolan's snowman drawing. 3 days later, Mark texted, "We need to talk." Ignored. Then Rachel Grandma's in the hospital. "She's been asking for you." I froze. Grandma. The one person who never forgot birthdays, never made Emma or Nolan feel like extras, the one who stayed out of the drama. I called the hospital to confirm. It was true, not life-threatening, just observation. But she'd asked for me twice. I drove up that night. When I walked into her room, she looked up from her pillow and smiled like I hadn't missed a single holiday, like I wasn't a ghost. "Claire." She said soft, "You okay, honey?" And for the first time since all of this started, I told someone everything. Not with venom, not with fury, just truth. How they asked me to fund the trip. How I said yes. How I found out I wasn't even included. How they said I would ruin it. How they looked me in the eye and pretended it was kindness. She closed her eyes, breathed out slow. "That's not what they told me," she said. "They said you refused to go, that you got angry and canceled everything out of spite." I shook my head. That's not even close to the truth. She opened her eyes again, and there it was, the sadness, the recognition. "I'm so sorry, Claire. I don't know what's wrong with them." That was all I needed to hear. One voice, one thread of clarity. And that single truth unraveled everything they'd tried to spin. The fallout was immediate. Less than an hour after I left Grandma's hospital room, my phone lit up like a slot machine finally hitting jackpot. Except instead of coins, it poured guilt. Mom. "Did you seriously go behind our backs and tell Grandma some twisted version of what happened, Rachel?" "She's old Claire. She doesn't need this stress." "What is wrong with you, Mark? You're turning people against their own family. This is toxic behavior." There it was, again toxic. The word they always used when I stopped being convenient. But I didn't reply. Because I didn't have to. They weren't angry I told Grandma the truth. They were terrified someone finally believed me. Terrified their version of the story, the one where I was crazy, vindictive, cold, was no longer airtight. I had pierced their narrative, and I had done it without screaming, without confrontation, just honesty, just presence. The next day, the rebrand began. A group text arrived from Mom, Dad, Rachel, and Mark like a PR firm had drafted it in haste. Effective immediately, we'd like to move forward with more transparency and unity. We're hoping you'll be part of some future plans. Let's reconnect soon. No apology, no ownership, just marketing language for manipulation. A few hours later, Rachel followed up with her own message. Hey, been thinking. Maybe we could all meet up for coffee next week. Just talk. No pressure. The same woman who erased my daughter's name from a Christmas stocking now wanted a latte and a chat. I replied Tuesday at 10 a.m. Works. See you then. She responded within seconds. Yay, I'll buy. But Tuesday came, and at 9:41 a.m., I sent, Sorry, last-minute work meeting. Can we reschedule? She said she understood. Let's touch base later this week. We didn't. 2 days later, Mom texted, Would you be able to pitch in for the gravel delivery? It's just $300 to cover the shortfall. I replied, Let me check some things. I'll circle back. I didn't. Saturday, Dad texted, Firewood prices are up. Can you help cover for winter? I replied. Send me the link. I'll look into it. He did. I didn't. Every time they followed up, I mirrored them. Their old tone, their old tactics, polite but non-committal, friendly but void of substance. I became them, and it worked better than I expected. Rachel went quiet first. No more emojis, no more check-ins, no coffee reschedules. Then Mom's texts got shorter, spaced out. Eventually they stopped. Mark unfollowed me on Instagram. A man who once sent 10 texts in a row about vineyard bookings couldn't handle silence. Even Dad, who never missed a group birthday text in 10 years, went silent in February. No happy birthday to my favorite people. No digital balloons. They were unraveling under the very weight they once used to crush me. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't insulted. I hadn't even said no. I just reflected their image back at them. Cold, polished, hollow. The difference was I saw it for what it was, and they didn't. They thought they were hurting me with the silence, but I'd already made peace with it. I'd already built a life beyond it. The holidays were gone. The trip was gone. The money was off the table, and so was I. Then came March. Another envelope, same handwriting, wobblier this time, inside the same check they'd sent months ago, uncashed, returned, and a note in Mom's voice that dripped with strategic softness. We're hoping to reset. Your father and I are thinking of selling the house. The proceeds might go into a shared family account for future needs. We'd like you to be part of that vision. That vision. There it was again, that soft coercion. Guilt disguised as unity. Manipulation packaged as legacy. I didn't respond. 2 days later, Rachel called. Not texted. Called. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was syrupy, overly chipper. Hey, Claire. The kids miss Emma and Nolan. I've been thinking about what you said. Maybe it's time for a real reset. Let's meet soon. Then the twist. Mom and Dad are serious about selling the house. We were thinking the money could help build something future-focused for all of us. Would love your input and your help setting it up. Your help? There it was. The real ask. They didn't want repair. They wanted access. So the next morning, I took the check they'd returned, slipped it back in the envelope, sealed it, and dropped it in the mailbox. No note, no emoji, no drama. That was the end. Not with a bang. Not with a monologue. Not even with a slammed door. Just a sealed envelope and a walk down my driveway. Weeks passed. Nothing. The group thread went dark. No memes, no guilt quotes, no family forever pictures. Birthdays came. No texts. No cards. And it didn't hurt. It felt like fresh air. Then one day in April, Erica messaged me again. They sold the house. Moved somewhere smaller outside the city. No invite sent your way, I assume. I replied, nope. Not this time. And I didn't want one. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for a seat at their table. I'd built my own. That spring, I took Emma and Nolan on a road trip up the coast. No itinerary, no bookings made months in advance, no matching travel outfits or content-ready photo ops, just a duffel bag, a playlist Emma made called Ocean Vibes, and the kind of joy that doesn't need to be documented to be real. We stopped in Monterey first. walked barefoot along the shoreline while Nolan shrieked at seagulls and Emma collected pieces of sea glass, whispering to each one like it held secrets. We stayed at a tiny bed and breakfast with squeaky floors and homemade biscuits that left butter on your fingers and warmth in your chest. The walls weren't soundproof. The towels weren't monogrammed. But the laughter was loud and the peace was absolute. No vineyard dinners, no rooftop spas, just greasy fish tacos eaten on the hood of the car, while the sky bruised into sunset and the waves clapped like applause. It wasn't luxury. It was freedom. I could have taken them to Europe, funded 10 more trips, bought 5-star suites in Florence. I still had the money. The contract was thriving. My calendar was booked solid for months ahead. But instead, I chose something they couldn't quantify. I chose presence. Nolan fell asleep that night with sea salt still tangled in his curls. Emma wrote in her journal by the window legs curled beneath her, drawing the cliffs we saw near Big Sur. And I sat there sipping lukewarm tea, realizing something terrifying and beautiful at once. I didn't miss them. Not Mom, not Dad, not Rachel, not the group texts, not the passive-aggressive potlucks, not the calendar invites masked as obligations, not even the illusion of family. I had made peace with my absence. They cut me out to protect their comfort, but I stayed out to protect my children, and in doing so, I gave them something that mattered more than heritage or photo albums. I gave them truth. I didn't lie to them about what happened. I didn't poison their minds or ask them to pick sides. I just lived better, louder in joy, softer in pain, clearer in boundary. I showed them that love doesn't come with price tags or conditional invitations. That family is not about blood. It's about safety, about who claps when you win, about who makes space when you hurt. They learned that through me, not because I was perfect, but because I was honest. Mother's Day came. No card from my parents, no flowers, just a quiet Sunday morning with Emma bringing me breakfast in bed, burnt toast with strawberry jam and a note that said, "You make everything feel okay." That note meant more than 20 European tours ever could. June arrived, then July. The silence from my old family didn't hurt anymore. It became background noise static I didn't need to tune into. When I saw their names pop up on social media, it was like watching reruns of a show I used to follow. Familiar, predictable, no longer compelling. One day in early August, a mutual friend messaged me, said she ran into Rachel at a wedding. She seemed small, she said. Bitter. Said she hasn't heard from you in a while. I didn't reply, not because I was being cruel, because I didn't need to justify peace, not anymore. The check Mom sent, the one I mailed back, it never returned to me again. No replacement, no message, just another item filed under closed accounts. Eventually, the pings from Rachel and Mark stopped. Dad never reached out again. And Mom, well, I think she finally understood. She used to say, "Claire, you're the rock of this family." I used to think that was praise. But rocks don't bend. They get stepped on. They stay silent while others build empires on top of them. I'm not their rock anymore. I'm my own. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel heavy. I feel held by the laughter in my house, by the hand-drawn cards, by the salt in the air when we drive to the beach on a Tuesday, by Emma asking, "Can we make glitter waffles for dinner?" and Nolan adding, "with whipped cream." A lot. By the simple fact that I get to choose peace every single day. They erased me, over and over, quietly, casually, with a smile. So I returned the favor with silence. Not out of malice, out of mercy, because some people only understand your value when they no longer have access to it. And by the time they do, you've already built a life where their approval doesn't echo anymore. They stopped clapping for me. That's okay. I learned how to clap for myself. Have you ever been erased by the people you loved most? Share your story in the comments. And if you felt this one in your bones, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more stories to tell, and this time they end with you reclaiming the pen.